Tensions between AMC Theaters and Universal Pictures reached a boiling point Tuesday night, ending in an explosive proclamation that the world's largest theater chain will no longer play movies from one of the biggest studios in Hollywood. The seeming declaration of war was triggered after Universal took a victory lap in the press, touting better than expected success for Trolls World Tour. The studio decided last month to move its animated sequel to Trolls directly on premium video on demand and in a handful of drive-ins across the country, when it became clear cinemas would have to close amid the coronavirus outbreak. Exhibitors' eyebrows were raised, particularly as Universal made its announcement before the shutdown went into effect, but they ultimately accepted it given circumstances and a general understanding that studios would otherwise wait until multiplexes reopened to showcase their most anticipated films. But the knives didn't come out until NBCUniversal CEO Jeff Shell suggested on Tuesday night Universal might start to simultaneously release movies in theaters and on demand, even after the pandemic subsides. As soon as theaters reopen, we expect to release movies on both formats, Shell told the Wall Street Journal. Shell's comments were interpreted as fighting words to those in the business of showing movies on the big screen. And there are other reasons relations have grown strained. Before taking a shot across exhibition bow, Universal reported a day earlier that Pete Davidson and Judd Apatow's comedy, The King of Staten Island, would also forego a theatrical release and drop on digital rental platforms in June. AMC CEO and President Adam Aron called Shell's remarks unacceptable. This radical change by Universal to the business model that currently exists between our two companies represents nothing but downside for us and is categorically unacceptable to AMC Entertainment. Aron wrote in a letter to the studio Tuesday night, announcing his venues would ban Universal's movies. Accordingly, we want to be absolutely clear so that there is no ambiguity of any kind. AMC believes that with this proposed action to go to the home and theater simultaneously, Universal is breaking the business model and dealings between our two companies. Universal Pictures, through a spokesperson, responded at the time, defending the studio and saying Shell's comments were misconstrued. Our desire has always been to efficiently deliver entertainment to as wide an audience as possible. We absolutely believe in a theatrical experience and have made no statement to the contrary, the studio said Tuesday evening. It remains to be seen if Universal is going to continue playing around with the theater's exclusive access to its films. But if Aron makes good on the threat, that would deprive Universal of thousands of screens to play movies, and pissing off the world's largest exhibitor will take a big chunk out of the studio's box office earnings. For AMC, which was struggling even before forced closures due to the pandemic, icing out Universal means the circuit won't be able to screen the next Fast and Furious flick or Jurassic World sequel. Those are the kind of blockbusters that can be counted on not to just sell tickets, but also tons of popcorn and concession stand treats that exhibitors rely on to boost revenues. Aron said AMC would also cut ties with any studio contemplating a wholesale change to the status quo. Cineworld, the owner of Regal Entertainment, took a less radical stance, barring anything that threatens to disrupt the way movies traditionally arrive in theaters, but stopping short of a total ban on Universal titles. Universal unilaterally chose to break our understanding and did so at the height of the COVID crisis when our business is closed. More than 35,000 employees are at home, and we do not yet have a clear date for the reopening of our cinemas, Cineworld said Wednesday in a statement. Other companies are being tight-lipped about whether they are following Aron's lead, arguing that conversations between the two parties should remain private. For decades, studios and exhibitors have debated the utility and length of theatrical windows, industry speak for the amount of time a movie plays exclusively in cinemas. Films commonly run in theaters for 90 days before they are available to watch on home entertainment through video on demand. Studios have attempted to shorten that gap in an effort to reduce marketing costs. They believe that they will get more bang for their buck by having movies debut on in the home shortly after they have blanketed the airwaves with theatrical releases. But theater chains have been concerned that audiences will be less inclined to buy tickets if they can see the movie on their couch just a few weeks later. I've always believed exhibitors hold the upper hand in these negotiations, even if Universal's stance was to circumvent the theaters, said Eric World, an analyst with B. Riley FBR. If all exhibitors band together, it would be tough for the studios to stand against them. Others maintain it's the studios who are responsible for producing content, wielding the power. Theaters need to stand in solidarity because the theatrical window is the lifeblood of theaters, said Jeff Bach, a box office analyst with Exhibitor Relations. It prevents them from having to compete against video on demand. Now, Universal is saying we're going to see film by film. Shutdowns due to coronavirus are affecting everyone, but theaters stand to lose the most. In any case, exhibitors' leverage isn't what it once was, however. Theaters are struggling to pay their rents and plan for uncertain reopening protocols. When they do get the all clear to reopen, the hope is that the new safety guidelines will be enough to persuade consumers to check out the multiplexes. But it's unclear if that will be the case. Privately, some theater owners were rattled by what felt like a lack of solidarity from Universal at a time when their business is in a free fall and they are unable to generate any income. Roughly 150,000 cinema workers have been furloughed or laid off, and many exhibitors are worried that they won't be able to go back to making money anytime soon. With theaters closed, on-demand platforms are booming. Universal estimates about 5 million people rented Trolls World Tour, generating roughly $100 million in sales. Studios keep nearly 80% of revenue from premium video on-demand rentals, compared to only 50% of traditional tickets. Universal trumped it that its Trolls follow-up was more lucrative after only 3 weeks of digital release than the original film was over its entire 5-month run in North American theaters. However, those stats don't mention international figures. Overseas audiences largely contributed to the financial success of the first Trolls. Analysts also point out that Trolls World Tour represents a unique situation because families are stuck at home. And while it might have paid off generously for Universal with its particular offering, cutting off theatrical revenue can limit intake from ancillary sales down the line. Universal was the first to jump on this very early, and for them it made sense. They did a ton of marketing, had promotional tie-ins that they couldn't recreate if they pushed the film. I don't expect a lot of what's happening right now to be happening a year from now. They had to play up what they could, and it's a very incomplete picture of what the film could have done. Rival studios have experimented with digital releases while cinemas are closed. But for the moment, those studios have largely remained in theaters' owners' good graces. That's because, in the case of Disney putting Artemis Fowl in a subscription streaming service and Warner Bros. Sending Scoob straight to digital rental services, neither were marketed as day-to-day releases that will premiere simultaneously in theaters and on demand. Moreover, Disney and Warner Bros. Have endeared themselves to exhibitors by keeping upcoming releases on the summer movie calendar. While Universal pushed most of its big films such as Fast 9 into 2021, Warner Bros. Is holding firm with plans to debut Christopher Nolan's Tenet in July and Wonder Woman in 1984 in August. Disney is moving forward with the July release of Mulan as well. In a recent Variety interview, National Association of Theater owner Chief Wiggum singled out both studios for praise. These two studios are signaling that they are fully committed to the theatrical model, he said. The exhibition industry's top lobbyists went on to predict other studios that push their titles way too later in the year or into the next year. I think we're missing out on a resurgence of moviegoing, and I think they're going to regret that and reconsider. Most major movie theaters won't be able to open until the end of the summer, at the earliest, leaving ample time for the two companies to make nice. In the interim, AMC could leverage their sweeping statements against Universal to negotiate a happy medium that could appease both sides. If it is content that wears the crown, studios are going to be in a very good place in terms of negotiations. And that puts theaters in a corner, Bach said. These discussions have to change from the traditional 50-50 revenue split and have to start looking at fluid release changes depending on how films do in the first couple of months. In the short run, this battle will only serve to damage an exhibition business that's facing an existential crisis. No one wins that kind of fight. So, which side are you on? Streaming or theater? Or both? Me, I'm both. I'm gonna go to theater no matter what. If they have it on demand or whatever. If it's a movie I'm really interested in, I'll go to theater. Most people go sometimes for dates. They go just to get out of the damn house. Those theaters, they have an old school mindset, man. Like, come on, man. People go to the theater for the experience. You know what I mean? For the damn popcorn and big ass screen and all that. I don't think they understand their own business model. I don't think they understand how their own business works, why people go to it, why it's successful. But they're scared a little bit because, you know, that Trolls movie was like pretty successful, man. That's 100 million in 3 weeks, and they keep 80% of the money. Yeah, the studio's loving that. But only time will tell. It's crazy as Corona's changing everything, man. It's getting so weird, crazy. It's like everybody's out to get ahead of the curve, you know? But we'll see. Only time will tell. That's it for this video. As always, stay safe and stay healthy out there.